the creator of the upcoming Crystal Lake Friday the 13th series. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause, Bryan Fuller. And two of our unfortunate victims from the movie. Let's bring back Larry Zerner, who played Shelley, and welcome Tracie Savage, who played Debbie. Bryan, you were here the other night for RRR. Is this the best? But this was better, right? Well, yeah, okay. Sorry, RRR. Although Jason throwing a leopard at another person would have been pretty cool. Bryan, I want to start with you. Now, I know the series is unique with a lot of fans in that a lot of them didn't kind of experience them in order. I was curious, what was your intro to the series? Was it this film? Was it a different one?
My intro was the first one, and I read it before I saw it. So I read it in Famous Monsters, which did synopses. So I was obsessed with Mrs. Voorhees from the age of 10, which was probably 3 years before I saw the movie. So it was all about Famous Monsters.
Thanks, Uncle Forward. For Tracie and Larry, I'm just curious, how did you guys get involved in the film? Were you familiar with the first two at all, or was it just completely new to you?
I'd been a child actress since I was 2 years old and had done lots of television, lots of wholesome stuff. Little House on the Prairie, and going way back to Marcus Welby and Adam 12, and so I worked a lot as a child actress, and I was getting ready actually to move away to Michigan to go to college in Ann Arbor. And my mom was an agent at the time. She said, they're making this movie and they're casting and you should probably go out on the interview. But I'm like, oh Mom, I'm kind of done with acting, I'm moving away. But I went on the interview. It was titled Crystal Japan because they were sort of hiding the title for a while, the real name, and I got cast and I got hired, and I thought, well, this will pay for a semester or two at University of Michigan. So I ended up working on the film. I still wasn't really sure what it was in the beginning, and I wasn't a huge fan of the horror genre, but now I am. So that's how I got started.
Yeah, my casting story is kind of interesting. I think a lot of people know it, but I was 18. I was a wannabe actor here in LA. Grew up in LA and studying theater at CSUN, and had a job handing out movie tickets, to previews. Like you see, you want to go to the movie, and I was in Westwood on a Saturday night handing out tickets to a Australian movie called The Road Warrior that no one had heard of and no one wanted to see. And these people came up to me, and then, so it's like I look like that, right? I got the fro and I'm fat, and that's it. And these people came up to me and go, "Are you an actor?" And I'm like, well, they must have seen me in Grease at Fairfax High because I rocked it at Roger. But so I'm like, yeah, I'm an actor, and they're like, well, we wrote this movie and we think you'd be really good in it. And that was Marty Katrasser and Carol Watson, and they had written it, and they just saw me and were like, yeah, that's the guy. It's like fro, wannabe actor, Shelley, that's him. Yes. So, and I gave my agents, I had an agent, and they gave me my name, and a couple days later I got a call to go down and audition. So I still had an audition, but it was really like, man, you're just like meant to be in this movie, and so it happened.
So the next time somebody's handing you out passes, just like take note of them, because they might end up being in, one of the Conjurings or some shit later. Tracie, I want to skip right up to your death scene because, like, as we talked about the trivia, it was a famous, recreation of Kevin Bacon's death. But he got to lay in a bed. You were in a hammock. What was that process like? I couldn't imagine that was very comfortable.
It was really crazy. It was a crazy day of shooting. Took all day to shoot that, 2-second shot, and it took months of prep before. Basically, I'm giving away the film secret, but basically what they did is they created a replica of my torso from my hips up to my neck and made a foam rubber copy of my entire upper body. And then they glued it to my neck so that this upper torso is attached here and sticking out there. They cut a hole in the hammock, and I got down underneath, kind of my body was under the hammock, and the fake part of the body was out on top of the hammock, except for my arms and my shoulders. And that gave a little play between where my real neck was and the neck of the little replica. And so they could push the knife up through there. But of course, the whole deal was trying to make sure that the knife worked, that the seam, you couldn't see the seam from the fake neck to the real neck, and that the 3D, was the knife coming out. You want to make sure that was right. So it was literally a day long on set trying to shoot that. I was in the makeup chair for probably 6 hours as they're putting and they really had one chance to get it. I think they'd made 2 of those foam replicas of my chest, but they really wanted to do it in one take. And by the way, that foam...
I took the other one home.
Yeah, I sent it actually to my then fiance who's living in Michigan. As a present, I put lace around. I really did. I swear to God. I was in California. He was in Michigan, so I sent him my chest as a gift.
Long distance relationship tips from the masters. And Larry, you didn't get a death at all. I mean, you got the appliance on your neck, but did you ever have a death scene? Was it scripted or anything, or was it always meant to be an off-screen?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was always an off-screen. People always ask me, like, did they ever film that scene in the bar? And they did not. That was it. I come in and, because it's like, is he faking it or not? I mean, I don't know, at this point you think he's not faking it, but that was the thought behind it.
Bryan, I want to get your opinion on this. Now, this movie introduces one of, I think, cinema's greatest monsters, which is Rick. He's such a fucking asshole. I was sad because I ran out to get another drink, and I was like, I ran back, and I got here just in time to see him die. I'm like, oh, thank God, because you really just want to see this dude get it. Like, she's like, Brick, stay with me. Why should I? I was just curious. Can we get your thoughts on Rick and some of the other maybe the less wholesome characters of the series?
I actually find a lot of the characters to be more wholesome than what their reputations are, and Rick's just kind of douchey and like making a comment about the weight and all of that. So it was fun to see him die more than Chuck and Chili, who were my point of view characters for the film.
Speaking of Chuck and Chili, did either of you ever question or internalize or anything why all these college-age kids are hanging out with 40-year-old potheads?
No.
Leave that to the nerds. I did want to ask the two of you about Richard Brooker, who passed away a few years ago. Obviously, you didn't probably get to work with him too much, but maybe just memories from set or anything. By all accounts, he was like a really great, kind of funny guy.
He, in this genre, he's a legend, and everybody knows and knew of him and was sad when he passed away. For me, on the set, I didn't engage with him much. First of all, we were all in our teens, and he was probably 30. He was a professional. He was a professional acrobat, and kind of stayed in character the whole time. And he kept, at least as far as I was concerned, he kind of kept his distance from us, and he didn't hang out with us dumb kids. He was just kind of doing his own thing. So I didn't really ever get to engage much with him, but I know that the fans just love him, and it's too bad that he's not here.
Yeah, neither of us have any actual scenes with Richard during the film. We'd see him, he'd be with his makeup on and smoking a pipe. He smoked a pipe. It was kind of weird to see him smoking a pipe. And then I didn't see him again until there was a screening at the New Art in 2002. Was anybody there? And me and Richard and Paul Kratka and Steve Susskind came. That was the first time I had see him and actually talk to him because we never talked on the thing. And then, you know, we'd go to conventions and then we sort of became friendly at conventions. And he was here at the 25th anniversary. We were, right, I think in this theater, right? Someone? Right? Okay, we were here in the Chinese at 2007 and he was there. And, you know, he was a great guy. He actually won an Emmy for something he invented, some kind of film process. He's a very talented guy.
Tracie, a question for you. One kind of bummer note in this movie is that your character's pregnant, so Jason actually kind of gets another victim in the way there. Dana Kimmel, but Chris, has talked about how she had some concerns about some of her characters' things in the script that she wasn't comfortable with. Did you remember ever having any conversations about the pregnancy thing, or was it just like, that's fine?
I was pregnant? No, not at all. Just give me the script. I'm here to have fun. I'm moving away to Michigan when this movie's over, and I'm moving on with my life. And this is just a great way to spend 6 weeks with, you know, a big group of young people. I mean, the director and producers were in their 20s. They were kids. And so no, I really didn't question the script much. I just showed up. The shower scene and the sex scene were a little tricky. I was really just, I'd just become an adult. I didn't have my mom on set with me, which I had done since I was 2 years old. And I knew I wanted to go on and become a journalist, a broadcaster, which I did for 30 years. And I didn't really want my face being shown while I'm having an orgasm so that the whole world would see, and that would be me for the rest of my life. And if I went on to be a broadcaster somewhere, that clip would come up. So I just could we figure something out? But I was a kid and I'm trying to negotiate this without my mom and without my agent there. And so as you saw, they had a shot of our feet and I was actually able to talk them into doing that and just showing our feet as opposed to our face. And so that was tricky. I mean, as a young kid, I'm trying to wow, I really don't want my face shown while you're doing this. And is there something we can do that's different? And then the shower scene, my teenage son has still not seen this movie.
He was going to come tonight. Her son had never seen the movie.
Yeah, but
let's just get a therapist right.
He conveniently had to work, so it's all good.
Larry, I wanted to know one thing about this movie when I watch it now after a few years is whenever somebody walks in the barn, I'm thinking about the video game. We got some people who play the game. Who else wishes the barn had a goddamn door in the game, right? They close the darn door every time they walk in. It pisses me off. Anyway, you recreated Shelley for the game, and I use you quite a bit, and I've won once with you. Usually you're the first to die, but that's fine, because I get to watch like a little mini Friday the 13th movie after. I was just wondering if you could talk about that process a bit, because it's really the only new Friday stuff we've gotten in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big gamer, and when they announced the game, I had a mutual friend who knew the guys at Gun who created the game, and they introduced me they had not even a beta, they had an alpha demo, and they were too poor to go into E3. They were here for E3. They just had a condo off E3, and I went there and saw it, and I was like, this is not going to work. I remember going, this is not going to work. But then the game came out, and it was great, and I met the guys and sort of befriended them. We were at Comic-Con, and then they were like, well, let's put Shelley in the game. And I'm like, great. Great, how much do you want? And they're like, no, we're going to pay you. I'm like, oh God, this is like the best. They're going to put me in a video game, and they're going to pay me. And so I didn't do, the animation's all the same for all they had one animation for all the campers, but I got to go in and do the vocal, which was really challenging as an actor. I'm sure there's a lot of wannabe aspiring actors or professional actors here. It's tough because you're doing like every emotion in like people are gonna die, like do that, for an hour. It's a challenge, but it was a lot of fun.
A lot of grunts. It's a lot of like, oh.
Yeah. Right.
Bryan, I wanted to ask you. This this film moved away from the sort of camp counselor motif to do like the group of friends coming to the lake or the creek or whatever they have here. I was just curious, what were your thoughts on that? I know some fans were like, oh, it should be at the camp, but other, obviously, 3, 4, 7, had that motif instead.
Well, it's one of the first films, it's the first film that doesn't really name the killer. So that's something that, fortunately, there's a lot of great kills. Vera's death, still, my head snaps back every time I see it in 3D. And you have the hockey mask. So it was a departure, and it wasn't necessarily doubling down on the mythology of Mrs. Voorhees and Jason Voorhees, because none of the characters named who the killer was. Nobody knew the mythology of Jason, and that was an interesting departure. And then when we get to 4, everybody knows who they're talking about, and it kind of gets back into the groove. But maybe we needed that departure just to make 4 land the way it did, and the subsequent films. I have questions about whether, for instance, I had heard that there was a version of the script where Ali survived at the end. Was that not true? Okay. Also, any of the footage of Chris's beheading, like, is that just, we've seen pictures. Okay. Can we look harder?
When they did the documentary, they really looked, and we were talking to Gerald File, the cinematographer, and it just seems to have been thrown away. I mean, but they did shoot an alternate ending where they showed an alternate ending, so where Chris is in the canoe, and she sees Jason up in the window. Instead of seeing Jason up in the window, she sees Rick up in the window, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's Rick!" And she paddles over, gets out, and she's running on. She's on the front of the cabin, and you see Rick through the window, and then they get to the door, and she opens the door. Instead of Rick, it's Jason, and he slices her head off and just pulls it off. And they shot it. I saw him shoot it, and it looked great. And I don't know why they didn't use it. It was fantastic. It would have been. It's a better ending. It's just landed so much. I thought. But no one knows where the footage is. There's pictures in the Crystal Lake Memories book.
Was it with the machete or the axe that she gets her head cut off with?
I'm pretty sure it was machete. Axe is kind of tough to do.
Somebody should deep fake like she sees Rick, but then keep the same reaction where she's like, "Ah, no!" And just like, fucking Rick, he just sucks so much. A lot of the actors have talked about, making the film, the 3D process. It was a new process. It was kind of a drag, and that when they would do another take, it was not because of a blown line or whatever. It was because something with the 3D went wrong. And I'm just curious for either of you watching it tonight. Is there anything? Do you remember like, I wish I could have done that specific part again, if they allowed you to?
Oh yeah, that first we've shot it almost entirely consecutively. The only thing we shot the scene at the store with the motorcycle that we shot first, and then everything else was shot in order, just from beginning to end. So that first scene of where Shelley comes out with the thing, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not. I was like, oh man, I want to redo that. I wish I could redo that. It's not my best day.
Yeah, I mean, people. The director was wonderful, but he really was not concerned about our acting ability. It was not even an issue, What's my motivation? Well, just stand in the right place so the camera works. I mean, that was really, the star of this movie was the 3D. And we never shot scenes twice because the delivery wasn't right or we fumbled a line. It didn't matter at all. And so, it is what it is, because the 3D is still such a great effect, and it's the star of the movie, so.
It's the best 3D movie shown in this theater tonight.
There you go. And do you know at the time, it was the highest grossing 3D film ever at the time in 1982?
Until like the 2000s, it was the highest grossing 3D movie ever. In fact, they're showing Creature from the Black Lagoon in 3D here tonight at 11 o'clock. If you want to.
Now, Larry, I just have to ask you, you must be thrilled because Larry has done an invaluable service for the fans over the years. As you know, that there's been a lawsuit going on that's kept us from having new Jason Adventures. And anytime there's a new development in that case, all the fans kind of look at this legal document that they post online and we're all like, yeah, I don't understand a goddamn word of this. And Larry, the saint that he is, who is a lawyer, gets online and explains it all to us. I'm just curious, are you happy you don't have to do that anymore?
No. Well, I'm happy the lawsuit is over. I left acting and I became a copyright lawyer and an entertainment lawyer, and that's what I do. And this was like, oh, my jams are together, copyright law and Friday the 13th, and I was like, this is the best. So I'm a little upset. I want there to be another lawsuit involved. But I'm glad it's over, so we can get the series. I want to know all about the series.
Good segue.
Bryan, tell us everything you can tell us about the series.
I can tell you a couple of things. I asked permission this morning. First of all, this is the first excursion of the writing staff, so we have many of the writing staff here for Crystal Lake, up in rows 1 and 2. We're starting in 2 weeks officially, so but this was our first kind of group outing. And the things that I've gotten permission to share about the show, and if people want to ask questions, I can say yes or no, I can't answer them, but the things I can share that I'm very excited about is that we will have 2 scores. We will have a modern score and a classic score composed by Harry Manfredini. So you can watch both versions on the cock, as it were. Well, we'll see, because it certainly supports the time period in which we're telling the story. And Kevin Williamson is going to be writing a script for us, and that's very exciting. And the third tidbit, Adrian King has a recurring role in the first season. So that's kind of a dream come true, as I love that first movie. I love all of the movies, but that first movie is particularly close.
Rank them right now.
And you didn't have Larry's phone number at that time when you were casting for the first season. No, you just.
I can't say more because it would give things away.
Okay. Oh, well, that's a good one.
Adrian's in the first season.
I see. But you didn't find my phone number.
Maybe we
either.
don't show up.
Yeah. You didn't know how to reach me either, I take it, right? You better hurry. We're not getting any younger, buddy.
I know the writing staff is out there going, I think we could make Larry a recurring character. I think semi-regular. Okay, you guys, I got money.
We have time for a few questions from the crowd. I saw your hand right there, sir. Hat. Yep.
Where are you guys shooting it?
Where are you guys shooting the TV show?
It's a ways away, likely Canada, honestly, because our money will go further, and we've got a very generous budget from the Peacock, but we want to spend a lot of money on casting, so we want to put it on screen in all sorts of ways. We have 1 season that is ordered to production and another season that Peacock has to pay a very heavy penalty for. And when I pitched the show, I pitched 4 seasons. 8 episodes and some change.
Canada's where they shot Jason Takes Manhattan, so I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's perfect.
Crystal Lakes.
Crystal Creek. Yeah.
Larry, Tracie, did you guys hear of anybody else playing Jason in part 3? We just heard last year that there was another guy for maybe 1 scene in the barn.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that, but we weren't there.
We wouldn't have known.
But I never, yeah, I mean,
There would have been no reason for that anyway.
yeah, I don't.
Good rumor.
The question was, would it someone else play Jason in the movie in a scene?
Hanging scene.
Okay, but we weren't there, so.
Oh, okay.
Larry, how does it
have an iconic piece of film connected to you, like hockey mask? How does that feel?
It's amazing. I mean, I didn't have much of an acting career, but that I have this thing 40 years later, people come and they love this movie and I'm a part of this film's history is amazing. I mean, I knew a lot of actors much better than me, but, and they never got this part that became iconic. I sort of like, I grew up on the Universal monsters, right? And it's like, I'm like the equivalent of the guy who played Igor in Frankenstein, right? It's like, you're right, you're like, I get a part of that. It's amazing. I'm just so grateful, and it's only been. I mean, I think me and Tracie both say it's only been fantastic for us. The having this experience, having instilled this experience. We just went to Lexington, Kentucky for a convention, and they blew us away. The love, yeah.
We got time for like maybe 2 or 3 more. Is anybody else? That's right. Another one. Oh yeah, way in the back. Yes, sir. Ma'am, sorry. Ma'am, yeah, you.
Okay, Bryan, are you gonna go more into Mrs. Voorhees' background in Crystal Lake?
We're honestly going to be covering it all. So it's the series is really the life and times of these two characters through many different experiences.
Elias?
Let me ask about Elias. Deep cuts.
Our show passes the Bechdel test. I'll just say that.
I actually noticed tonight this movie actually passes the Bechdel test. You guys talk about your bed and like stuff like that. It's a very progressive movie. Shout out to the Progressive Friday 3. Anybody? Any other questions? I get wave. It's like okay, yeah. Ask about keeping props in the movie.
I got my foam cushion. Yeah.
I got the fake axe that Shelley comes out. I have that. It's in my office. Yeah. So I got that. I asked for the mask. I asked them for the mask, and they were like, "No." And then no one knows where it went. No one knows where that original mask was.
And that the blue bikini was my bikini, and it stayed with me for a while afterwards.
Till I stole it.
One more, just wave it around. I think I see one in the middle. Yeah. Yep.
What's your favorite Clash song?
Clampdown.
That was a quick one. Do you have another one? Way in the back. Yep. Practical effects of the show.
It'll probably be a combo, just depending on a lot of issues, but we want to lean into practical as much as possible and honor the pedigree of the franchise.
Bring Sabine in?
Ooh, be amazing to work with.
Yeah, question.
All right, so just one last thing before we wrap things up. Now, I know I personally hate being interrupted when I'm reading. Tracie, I wanted to give you this so you can finally finish it. This is the issue of Fangoria that you grabbed, that you wanted to read. You can finally finish it without blood all over it. So enjoy that. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Larry, Tracie, and Bryan. If you guys have stuff for them to sign, we do ask, can we take that out in the lobby instead of trying to crowd them out here, because that's not fun. They'll do it in the lobby. But thank you all again. Really appreciate you all coming. Peacock subscribe to Peacock, and if you watch Sick came on Peacock, which is new Kim Williamson slasher. It's awesome. Thank you again, guys. Really appreciate this. Everybody drive safe and be good, okay?